Hello and welcome to the Bald Watch Modder.
Right, here we've got a San Martin Turtle homage watch, and we are going to be turning this into a 6309, the original Turtle. So we're going to take the base of the San Martins, as a case, etc., and we're going to turn it into this classic Turtle to make a vintage diver watch. So we've started off by having a look at the parts. So here's the case. Now I've already actually swapped out the bezel insert for this aluminium aftermarket Seiko one. We need a NH36 with a 3.8 crown position, and obviously we need the um, dial, and I managed to source a very good dial, very realistic to original. The lume is still slightly a greeny color, but it is, when in normal light, it's quite white, so it fits with the original dial. It also came with some hands as well. I did actually use these hands originally, but I had to then change them for another set that I had and just use the second hand because the loom on it was so poor it had to go. And here we have a Tropic strap to pop on the watch once it's complete. So start by having a look at this dial. Now this dial is very, very close to the original. As I said, you know, it's as close as you're going to get. It's an absolutely brilliant dial. Looks really good, and it should offset the build really well. It does have a little nodule on the side which I had to cut off, and it's got the legs on the back that need to be cut off because they don't match up to the NH36 case holder. So those are going to have to come up, and it's going to be dial dot time like it normally is. So we're just going to cut these off, just snip these off. If they're a little bit rough or don't come up properly, then you need to file them down so that it's nice and smooth. We're going to take our NH36 now. As I said, it's got a crown position of 3.8, which is necessary in order to do this build. The only other way to do it is if you do get a 3, you've got to swap out the inside date disc because it won't match up to the date window. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a dial that I've already got that's at 3.8 and just checking what the date is. You can do it visually, but I'm just making sure that it looks okay and it lines up. So we know what the date is. Then it's a case of popping on your dial dots because of course there's no legs to guide you now. So the dial dots are popped on here. I put on 4 double-sided tape to stick them on and then remove the backing tape, backing paper in order to stick the dial down. Once you've done that, just make sure that the tape's not going to foul anything, not going to catch on the date disc or anything like that. And it's a case of aligning the dial. These dials align very well. For some reason, they seem to align very well and very easily. Maybe it's because of the way they've been made. So this one pops on nice and simply, nicely aligned. And we're just going to check that the dial doesn't foul on the calendar movement, so it stops it working. It's then a case of popping on the hands. So just try to get as best shot here so you can see how you pop on the hands. It's just making sure you get the right pusher, pop that in, push those on, make sure they're flat and straight. You know, you can have a look from the side, make sure it's not pointing down or up. As I did say, I did have to swap these out because the loom on them was beyond poor, to the point of non-existent. Now, I know it's a vintage looking watch, so it's a case of you can kind of go, rather, there's a bit of a mismatch and stuff like that. It's not supposed to look like a brand new watch. That's absolutely fine. But these were so poor. The dial is very good, good to very good. And I luckily enough had a pair of hands that were identical to these, and I swapped them out, which also had the white loom look. So it kept the look of the original build. So it's not a greeny green color, which would throw the build off slightly, because we needed to keep it as white as possible to keep it as close to the original. So just putting on the minute hand there. This minute hand went on. They all went on pretty well, nice and easily. I'm going to wind it up to 12 o'clock position to see how far off we are. Um, and we're going to be off by just not too much at all, I think. And so it's a case of, if you are off, then you can attempt to push the minute hand back into position, try not to scratch the dial. If it won't go, you will have to take the hands back off again. So just realigning it to make sure it's spot on, and then a case of just checking that to make sure that that's aligned. Once that's all aligned, it's a case of popping on the seconds hand. The seconds hand I did have to use from the original set of hands, so the loom on that's pretty poor, but that's negligible as far as I'm concerned. But the main hands had to be swapped out because they were just too poor, and made the watch look a bit off key. So once you've done that, just make sure that everything's working, nothing's fouling each other's, nothing's bent, nothing's hitting, because of course they hit, it could slow the time down, it might hit the top of the case, blah 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 blah, and then cause you an issue. Also, by spinning it around a little bit, you can also see that they're not too loose, but normally once they click on, that's it, done. It's a case of now taking out the crown again, because we've got to now put it into the case. A little bit about the San Martin cases. They are absolutely amazing. I find them brilliant cases, but the dials and the handle light things, it just doesn't work for me. I like to use them as a base for mods. That's about it. I don't think I could actually wear one on a daily basis as a wearing watch, because it just doesn't work for me. They don't look right. So we're just cleaning off the case now to make sure there's no bits and pieces in there, so that's not going to show up later in the build. Give everything a good clean. You can also clean the hands if you wish to. Pop the movement back into the case, make sure that it's sitting right, push down on the plastic holder, make sure that that plastic holder, don't push down, I don't push down on the mechanism. You're not really going to break anything by pushing down on the uh, plastic holder. Pop a little bit of silicone grease on the inside of the crown gasket. I've had this while this watch actually been sitting for a while, so we'll grease it up. I had it sitting for a long time because I bought it and I looked at it and it's just not going to work for me, so it eventually became this mod. Grease the case back gasket as well to make sure we're going to not compromise the waterproofness. Pop in the crown. When you're doing this, put it in, twist it backwards and forward, it will naturally go in. Don't force it. um, it'll go in by itself, basically. Click round, once it's in, push it down to the first position, and then just check that it winds, which it does perfectly. So then it's a case of putting in the O-ring gasket to make sure that the watch stays waterproof. Because the case back has been off this one a few times, it's getting a little bit tricky. I think if it comes off again, it'll be a case of replacing this gasket, but hopefully it won't be coming off again, so that's absolutely fine. Pop the case back on, wind it anti-clockwise, then clockwise, to make sure that it's sitting properly. Wind that down, hand tightness, and then it's a case of torquing it down with your case back opener. Once again, just don't crush it. So we're going to give it a quick clean off now. The alignment on this wasn't great. I actually had to go back in and twist the dial a few times to get it better. But I'll be honest with you, it's a Seiko, so it being slightly off is a funny thing that I wasn't that bothered. It almost made it more authentic in a way that it is slightly off, but it does actually get done but a bit better later on. Pop on the Tropic strap. This is a Tropic strap that I got from Amazon. This strap actually as well was actually sent back, because what happened was that after about a day of having it, it went completely grey. So I've sent it back and got a far more expensive one to put on the watch, because it was just spoiling the whole look of the watch completely with this weird linty grey Tropic strap. Just looked awful, so that had to go back. So now we can see the finished watch, and I think it looks very close to original. Obviously, the trained people or the people in the know are going to know it's not immediately, it's not correct. But to my eye, it looks great. It's a case of getting a new watch, new movement, everything functioning and working, no issues at all. It looks wonderful. So I've just taken off the Willard that I had on, so I can pop on this turtle, and so we can have a look at that. So that's the Willard we built before. Pop on the turtle, and you can see it looks really. You can actually see it picking. It's picked up quite a bit of dust already, and that's why this strap had to go back, because that was no good. You can see there the case is really nice. The dial's really nice. The hands Everything looks really great. As I said, hands were swapped out again for other hands. Second's hand was used, and it looks pretty much close as you're going to get to the classic watch. And here it is outside, so you can see outside, and you can see how it looks in the sun. I think it's come out absolutely brilliant. Worked out really well. Another classic Seiko diver. So thanks a lot for watching again. It's been the Bold Watch Modder. See you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.